It was a dark evening on the outskirts of town. Fog crawled across the cracked asphalt like fingers of smoke, wrapping the old abandoned warehouse in an eerie silence that felt almost alive. His name was Raymond Cole. A 42-year-old businessman, wealthy, respected, but a man whose private life was a locked room no one had ever entered. And on this night, that secrecy took him somewhere darker than anyone could have imagined. A shadow detached itself from the corner of the warehouse. A man, gaunt, nervous, stepped forward and whispered. "Stranger. You brought the cash?" Raymond didn't speak at first. He simply lifted a brown envelope and opened it slightly. Inside $1,000 in crisp bills. The stranger nodded and kicked something lying at his feet. A body. Covered with a sheet. Not moving. Not breathing. Already cold. Already dead. The stranger's voice dropped lower, almost trembling. "Remember, once you take him, he's yours. There is no returning." Raymond stood still, staring at the sheet-covered form. Minutes passed like hours. Then, in a voice calm and unreadable, he murmured. "Raymond. I know exactly what I'm doing." Carefully, almost respectfully. He crouched, lifted the lifeless weight, and carried it toward his SUV. The trunk opened with a soft metallic click. Raymond placed the body inside, closed the trunk. And in the stillness of that abandoned lot, he stood there a moment, as if listening to something only he could hear. Then he got into the driver's seat. And drove off into the night. For reasons unknown. And for a mystery that was only just beginning. Raymond's SUV screeched to a halt outside the emergency entrance. Before the engine even stopped, he flung the door open and shouted. Raymond panicked. "Help. Please, my father collapsed. He's not responding." The automatic doors slid open and two nurses rushed out, pushing a stretcher. Their shoes slapped against the wet concrete as they reached the vehicle. They opened the back trunk. The moment their hands touched the body, a chill shot through them. The skin was cold. Too cold. The kind of cold that no living person should ever have. Nurse Lydia, a woman with sharp instincts and a decade of experience, frowned deeply. She pressed her fingers to the patient's wrist. No pulse. No warmth. No resistance in the limbs. Lydia, quietly. "This doesn't feel right. He's stiff." Her colleague, Nurse Emma, looked up in concern. But then something caught Lydia's eye. Raymond's wristwatch. A luxury brand worth more than their yearly salary. His polished suit. The pristine SUV he drove. This wasn't a poor, confused man. This was someone with money. Lydia leaned closer to Emma and whispered. "Lydia. He's rich. Don't ask questions, just follow his lead." They lifted the lifeless body onto the stretcher. Raymond hovered over them, desperation dripping from his voice. "Raymond. Please, save him. Do whatever you can. Money is not the issue." The nurses paused. Those words echoed through the air. Money is not the issue. Words that traveled farther than Raymond realized. Straight into the ears of staff members lingering by the doorway. Doctors who had seen richer families walk in. And leave poorer. And with that sentence, the night took a sharp turn. Because in this hospital, money didn't just open doors. It awakened greed. This was the beginning of everything. The sliding doors opened again, and the head doctor, Dr. Harold Marshall, stepped inside. He was a tall man with tired eyes and a reputation whispered about in corridors. A man who had seen too many tragedies. And profited from more than he should have. As he approached the stretcher, his gaze dropped to the body. His hand brushed against the patient's arm. Cold. Not the cold of shock. Not the cold of fainting. But the unmistakable, irreversible cold of death. Dr. Marshall froze for a split second. He knew. Immediately, unquestionably. This man was already gone. But then, his eyes shifted to Raymond. The watch. The suit. The desperate urgency of someone who clearly wasn't afraid to spend money. And in that moment, something changed in Marshall's expression. A spark. Not of concern. But of calculation. He straightened, forcing emotion into his voice. Dr. Marshall, gentle, falsely reassuring. We'll try everything we can. But, first, we need to run some emergent scans to understand his condition. Raymond didn't hesitate. Raymond. Do whatever is needed. Just save him. Dr. Marshall turned slightly, catching Nurse Lydia's eye. They held a silent exchange. A quick glance that carried far more meaning than words. A look that said, "He's rich. This is our chance. Let's make money off this man." Lydia looked down at her shoes. She knew what that look meant. She'd seen it many times before. But tonight, it felt darker than usual. In that small, silent moment, a decision was made. A dangerous one. Because Dr. Marshall didn't see a grieving son. He saw a walking wallet. And the schemes that followed would unravel a mystery nobody was prepared for. While Raymond paced outside the emergency bay, two junior nurses, Anna and Kobe, slipped into a dim corner of the hallway, well out of Dr. Marshall's sight. Anna leaned in, her voice trembling just enough to reveal the fear she was trying to hide. Anna, whispering. Something is seriously wrong. That man, that patient, he's already gone, Kobe. He was cold when we lifted him. No pulse. No reflex. Kobe glanced toward the emergency room where Dr. Marshall was giving orders with exaggerated confidence. He swallowed hard. Kobe. So why is Dr. Marshall playing along? Why pretend? Anna sighed, a heavy, tired breath that carried years of frustration. Anna. Because the man looks wealthy. And this hospital. She paused, ensuring no one was listening. You know our reputation. Kobe nodded slowly. Everyone knew. Everyone. Rumors that were never written down but spoken in break rooms, whispered between staff, and joked about nervously by interns. Rumors that the management stretched bills whenever a patient looked rich. Adding tests they didn't need. Running scans that weren't necessary. Charging for procedures that never happened. A system built on quiet exploitation. But tonight, this wasn't stretching anything. This was different. Darker. Heavier. Kobe's voice dropped even lower. Kobe. This doesn't feel like a money trick anymore. This feels wrong. Completely wrong. Anna hugged her arms tightly around herself. Anna. I know. And if Dr. Marshall is willing to cross this line, I'm scared to think what else he's capable of. A long, uneasy silence filled the corridor. A silence that said the truth out loud. Without either of them speaking another word. The doors to the trauma room swung open, and Dr. Marshall emerged with a face full of exaggerated urgency. His steps were quick, dramatic, just enough to instill fear, just enough to sell the lie. He stopped in front of Raymond, placing a hand on his shoulder with forced sympathy. Dr. Marshall, grave tone. We've examined him. His heart is failing. He needs emergency surgery. Right now. Raymond widened his eyes, putting on a flawless performance. Fear. Shock. Confusion. All of it perfectly acted. Raymond, pretending to panic. Surgery? Now? What do I need to do? Please tell me what it will take. Dr. Marshall cleared his throat, lowering his voice as if sharing something delicate. Dr. Marshall. We need a deposit, $5,000. Immediately. Once that is settled, we'll rush him into the operating room. Behind him, Nurse Anna and Nurse Kobe exchanged troubled looks. Their stomachs twisted. They both knew the patient wasn't alive. And they both knew what this was. Extortion, disguised as compassion. Raymond didn't hesitate, not for a second. He calmly set his black briefcase on a nearby seat, clicked it open. And inside was cash. Stacks of crisp bills. Neatly arranged. Nurse Lydia sucked in a quiet breath. Even she wasn't expecting that. Raymond pulled out $5,000 without blinking. No question. No negotiation. Just calm certainty. He handed the money straight to Dr. Marshall. The doctor's eyes lit up. Too quickly, too eagerly, like a child who'd just seen candy. His smile slipped out before he could hide it. A greedy smile. A dangerous one. Anna shifted uncomfortably. Kobe looked away, ashamed. Raymond watched the doctor's reaction carefully. Every micro-expression, every twitch, every greedy glint. Because this moment, this exchange, was exactly what he was waiting for. This was all part of his plan. And the hospital had stepped right into the trap. The stretcher wheels squeaked softly as the nurses rolled the body into the preoperative room, a stark white space meant for urgent life-saving procedures. But tonight, it felt cold. Too cold. Like the patient lying on the table. A young intern named Evan, barely 6 months into his training, stepped forward. This was supposed to be routine: stabilize, assess, prepare. But the moment his fingers brushed the man's forearm, he flinched violently and jerked his hand back. His eyes widened in horror. Evan, whispering, shocked. He's ice cold. This is not normal. Nurse Carla, older and more experienced, frowned and approached cautiously. She gently lifted one of the eyelids. The pupil didn't react. It didn't even twitch. She placed 2 fingers against the neck. No heartbeat. No warmth. No sign of life whatsoever. Carla turned to the others in disbelief. Carla, low, troubled. No reflex. No pulse. No response. This man isn't alive, not even close. Evan backed away a step, shaking his head. Evan. Why are we preparing a dead man for surgery? The question hung in the air like a forbidden truth. Before anyone could answer, the door slammed open. Dr. Marshall stormed inside, eyes sharp, jaw clenched. Dr. Marshall, stern, aggressive. Is there a problem? Carla hesitated, only for a second, but that was enough. Evan spoke before she could stop him. Evan. Doctor, he's gone. He's completely unresponsive. This is wrong. We can't operate on. Marshall cut him off with a dangerous glare. Dr. Marshall, hissing. Just follow orders. The room fell silent. Evan swallowed hard. Carla's shoulders tightened. The other nurse, Kobe, stepped back, heart pounding. Everyone felt the same thing. Fear. Fear of the truth. Fear of questioning authority. Fear of losing their jobs. But most of all, fear of what Dr. Marshall was willing to do. In that cold, sterile room, where life was meant to be saved. Fear began to spread like a slow poison. Because the staff were no longer afraid for the patient. They were afraid of the doctor. Raymond sat alone on a hard plastic chair in the dimly lit hospital hallway. The hum of fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The distant beeping of monitors from the emergency room echoed like ghostly warnings. He stared at the surgery room door, a barrier separating him from the chaos inside. His fingers drummed lightly on the armrest. Finally, in a low, almost inaudible whisper, he spoke to himself. Raymond. This ends tonight, all of it. The hallway seemed to contract around him, carrying him back in time. Flashbacks of a childhood steeped in sorrow and neglect washed over him. A father who abandoned him without a word, leaving a void filled only with anger. A mother whose nightly tears became the soundtrack of his youth. A life shaped by loss. A life fueled by the desire for justice. And the promise of revenge. He had spent years searching, relentlessly, for the truth. For the man who caused his family's suffering. For a father figure, for closure. And then the truth hit him like a hammer. His father had died long ago. But worse. The man who had destroyed everything he loved wasn't gone. He was still alive, in another form. A man who wielded power over life and death. A doctor known for faking treatments, extorting patients, and laughing at the suffering of others. Raymond's jaw tightened. His eyes darkened. Tonight wasn't just about a body. Tonight wasn't about deception. Tonight was about payback. And the hospital, with all its greed and corruption, would be part of it. In that quiet hallway, a man once broken by life's cruelty made a silent vow. A vow that would ripple through the hospital walls. And expose a darkness no one was prepared to face. In a quiet, dimly lit supply closet, Nurse Anna fumbled with her phone, glancing nervously over her shoulder. The corridor outside was bustling, but inside, every shadow seemed to press closer. Her hands trembled slightly as she dialed a number she hoped would respond quickly. On the other end, the line clicked, and a calm, authoritative voice answered. Detective Harris, Harris. Anna took a deep breath, lowering her voice to a near whisper. Anna. Detective, something is happening here. We have a patient who is not alive. And the doctors, they know it. A brief pause. She could almost hear Harris's mind racing through the words. Detective Harris, firm, immediate. I'm coming right now. Don't tell anyone. Not a word. Anna nodded to herself, even though he couldn't see it. Her pulse pounded in her ears as she ended the call. She pressed her back against the wall, feeling the cool metal of the supply cabinet against her spine. The weight of secrecy settled on her shoulders. In that quiet, urgent moment, the first step toward justice had been taken. One nurse, driven by conscience. And one detective, ready to uncover a web of greed, lies, and deadly deception. The game had begun. Dr. Marshall bursts into the hallway, his shoes echoing like gunshots. Raymond looks up slowly, calm, too calm. Marshall, furious whisper. What game are you playing, Mr. Hale? My staff is in revolt. They say that man is dead. Raymond leans back, folding his arms. Raymond. Is he? Marshall freezes. Raymond, quiet, threatening. You tell me, doctor. You're the expert. Marshall's face twitches. Sweat forms at his hairline. He lowers his voice. Marshall. You listen to me, whatever stunt you're trying to pull, stop it. Right now. Raymond stands. He is taller than Marshall remembered. More controlled. More dangerous. Raymond. You think tonight is about money? About surgery? About some old man? He steps closer. Raymond. You destroyed families, doctor. Left people broke, dying, hopeless. Just like mine. Marshall's breath catches. Because he finally realizes. Raymond knows. Before Marshall can speak, a voice cuts through the hallway. Firm. Commanding. Detective Harris. Dr. Marshall. Step away from him. Marshall spins. Harris is there, badge out, hand on his holster. Nurse Anna stands behind him, guilt and courage mixed on her face. Raymond doesn't move. He just watches, the trap closing. Harris walks forward. Harris. We have reports of medical fraud, possible corpse tampering, and obstruction. And I'm here to see what's behind that surgery room door. Marshall's confidence collapses. He looks back at Raymond. At the calm expression. The stillness. The quiet rage. And for the first time tonight. Dr. Marshall feels fear. The hallway goes silent. Even the buzzing lights seem to pause. Dr. Marshall's face drains of color. Marshall, whispering. You what? Raymond's eyes burn with a cold, unshakable truth. Raymond. I bought a dead body. Paid a morgue assistant to release an unclaimed man. Brought him here. Because I wanted to see what you would do. He steps forward, his voice low, steady, lethal in its calm. Raymond. And you did exactly what I expected. Exactly what you did to my mother. Marshall tries to regain control, raising his voice, but it cracks. Marshall. This is madness. You can't trap me with a corpse. This is illegal. Raymond laughs softly. A hollow, broken sound. Raymond. Illegal? You lecturing me about the law? He points toward the pre-op room. A dead man was about to undergo emergency surgery. Because you saw an opportunity, in tragedy. Nurse Anna watches, trembling. Kobe and the other staff listen from a distance, stunned by every word. Marshall's eyes dart between them, realizing the room is no longer on his side. Marshall, desperate. This is entrapment. You can't accuse me. Raymond cuts him off again. Raymond, low, deadly. I didn't accuse you. You accused yourself the moment you asked for that money. He gestures toward the briefcase still on the counter. Raymond. $5,000. Given to you knowing the man was dead. And you took it without blinking. Marshall swallows, hands shaking. Marshall. You planned this? Raymond. For years. Raymond's voice softens, not with mercy, but with old, buried pain. Raymond. My mother trusted this hospital. She trusted you. And you drained her life savings, telling her she would get better. His jaw tightens. His eyes shine, but he refuses to cry. Raymond. She died believing she was fighting an illness. But she wasn't. She was fighting you. Marshall steps back as if physically struck. Raymond. I didn't come here to kill you, doctor. I came here to expose you. Tonight, you finally treated a patient who couldn't feel pain. A patient you couldn't scare. A patient who couldn't die twice. The hallway door swings open. Detective Harris steps in. He heard everything. His voice is cold steel. Harris. Dr. Marshall, you're under arrest. Marshall's knees weaken. Raymond closes his eyes. For the first time in decades. He feels something like justice. The room freezes. Dr. Marshall's mouth hangs open, but no words come out. Detective Harris steps closer, his expression turning from suspicion to fury. Harris. Doctor. I'm only going to ask this once. Did you knowingly accept money to operate on a corpse? Marshall's lips twitch, trying to form a lie. But before he can speak, Anna steps forward, voice trembling but firm. Anna. Yes, detective. He took the money. And this isn't the first time something like this has happened. Patients are billed for tests they never needed. Treatments that were never done. Kobe steps beside her, breathing hard. Kobe. We were scared to speak. Everyone was. Staff who complained, they were fired. Some were threatened. A murmur ripples through the other nurses watching from the hall. Detective Harris slowly turns back to Dr. Marshall. Harris. You've been warned before. There were complaints. But there was never enough evidence. He gestures toward the dead man, his eyes locked on the doctor. Harris. Tonight, you gave us everything. Marshall snaps, desperate. Marshall. This man, Raymond, he set me up. He brought a dead body here. He tricked us. Raymond finally stands, stepping out of the shadows. His voice is calm. Too calm. Raymond. I didn't force you to do anything. He points at the body. I didn't tell you to ignore the obvious. He points at the cash on the counter. I didn't tell you to take the money. Raymond locks eyes with him. Raymond. You exposed yourself. All I did was let you. Marshall looks around the room, eyes darting wildly. No one is on his side. Harris. Dr. Marshall, you are under arrest for medical fraud, attempted extortion, and the endangerment of hospital staff and patients. Two officers step forward and take his hands. Marshall tries to pull away, panic choking him. Marshall, shouting. I built this hospital. You traitors. All of you. Anna flinches. Kobe looks away. Other nurses stand firm. As Marshall is dragged toward the exit, Raymond speaks softly. Raymond. You didn't build anything. You buried people. My mother was one of them. Marshall goes silent. Detective Harris nods respectfully toward Raymond. Harris. We'll take it from here. But you need to give a full statement. This story isn't over. Raymond doesn't respond. He simply looks at the lifeless man on the stretcher. And whispers under his breath. Raymond. And neither is his. The hospital's small conference room becomes an impromptu investigation center. Detective Harris sits at the head of the table, recorder on, notebook open. One by one, everyone speaks. Anna gives her statement first. Her hands shake, but her voice holds. Anna. This has been happening for years. Unnecessary tests. Fake emergency procedures. Patients overcharged. Some families never recovered from the debt. She wipes a tear quickly, embarrassed. Harris. You did the right thing coming forward today. Anna exhales shakily, relieved. Kobe speaks next. Kobe. We were told to stay quiet. Dr. Marshall, he had connections. If you reported anything, you lost your job the next week. He looks at the door where Marshall was taken away minutes earlier. Kobe. Maybe now people can breathe again. Raymond's turn comes last. He sits across from Harris, hands clasped, expression unreadable. Harris. Mr. Cole. I need the truth. All of it. Raymond nods, unblinking. Raymond. I bought a dead body. I did it because I knew this hospital's reputation. I knew Marshall would take the bait. And I knew he would choose money over ethics. Harris rubs his forehead, tired, conflicted. Harris. You understand how dangerous that was? You could be charged with handling a corpse illegally. Raymond doesn't flinch. Raymond. I understand. But there was no other way. This hospital destroyed my mother. She trusted Marshall. He kept her under treatment until she died. A long silence hangs between them. Harris studies him, not as a suspect, but as a man broken by a past that never healed. Finally, the detective nods. Harris. Your method was extreme. But effective. He closes his notebook. Harris. Marshall is being charged with attempted extortion, medical fraud, and violating public health laws. Your testimony and the staff's statements close every loophole. Raymond exhales slowly. The weight of years finally begins to lift. As officers escort Dr. Marshall past the room in handcuffs, he locks eyes with Raymond. The doctor who once controlled everything is now powerless. Raymond stands. He doesn't shout. He doesn't smile. He simply says, Raymond. This wasn't revenge. This was justice. Marshall looks away, defeated. The hospital parking lot is flooded with flashing lights, police cars, board members' vehicles, and reporters gathering like shadows. Inside, the hospital board files into the building, their expressions tight and grim. Word spreads through the hallways like electricity. Board chairwoman, stern. Effective immediately, the entire surgery department is shut down. No procedures. No consultations. Full investigation begins tonight. Doctors gasp. Nurses whisper. Some are relieved. Some are terrified. Nurse Anna and Kobe stand off to the side, unsure what comes next. The chairwoman approaches them. Chairwoman. You too, thank you. Your courage likely saved future lives. Anna covers her mouth, overwhelmed. Kobe nods, fighting tears. For the first time in years. They feel safe. Outside the hospital. Raymond stands alone at the entrance, the cold night wind brushing against his suit. Police carry sealed boxes, files, documents, financial records, out of the building. Marshall is already gone, transported downtown in cuffs. Detective Harris steps outside and approaches Raymond. Harris. It's over. Officially. Raymond looks at the dark sky, exhaling a long, heavy breath. Raymond. No. It's finally beginning. Harris raises an eyebrow. Raymond. My mother used to tell me. The truth always wakes up eventually. Tonight, it woke up. Harris gives a small nod of respect. Harris. You did something dangerous. But you also forced hidden evil into the light. Raymond turns to face the hospital one last time. The windows reflect blue and red lights. The colors of truth. Of consequences. Of closure. He whispers softly. Raymond. Justice, finally. He walks toward his SUV, the same one that carried the dead body hours earlier. But he walks differently now, not with guilt, not with fear. With purpose. As he drives away into the dark highway, the hospital behind him flickers with police sirens. A corrupt empire collapsing. And for the first time in decades, Raymond feels free. A quiet cemetery. The moon casts a pale glow over the rows of stone markers. Wind rustles through tall grass. Raymond walks slowly toward a familiar grave. A place he hasn't visited since the day he lost her. He kneels, hands resting on the cold ground. The headstone reads. Maria Cole. A loving mother. Gone too soon. Raymond's voice cracks as he speaks. Raymond. I couldn't bring you back. But I stopped them. I stopped the people who ruined you. He pulls a white rose from his coat. Pure, silent, delicate. He lays it gently on the grave. A tear falls beside it. Not from sadness. But from release. Raymond stands, looking up at the stars. For a long moment, nothing moves. No sound. No fear. Just peace. He whispers one last time. Raymond. I hope this brings you rest, Mom. It finally brought me mine. He turns away, walking into the night. Not as the man who bought a corpse. Not as the man chasing revenge. But as a man who did something terrible. For the right reason. The camera pulls back as Raymond disappears into the darkness. Leaving behind a grave. A rose. And a past finally laid to rest. The end. Sometimes justice comes in strange forms. Sometimes the truth demands unthinkable actions. And sometimes, one man's darkness exposes another man's deepest crimes. Raymond wasn't a hero. He wasn't innocent. He crossed lines no one should ever cross. But he did it for one purpose. Justice. He sought answers. He sought closure. And in the most mysterious way imaginable. He found both. Some stories end with light. Some end with shadows. Raymond's ended with both. A man who walked through darkness. To reveal the truth hidden in someone else's. Justice came. Just not in the way anyone expected. If you love mystery, true crime, style storytelling, emotional narratives, and deep moral questions, this story is for you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more powerful stories.